Specifically, what came up was the problem of suffering, or the problem of evil, as it's called. As you know, the argument goes like this. How can there be an all-powerful God who is all-loving if there's evil? Because if he's all-powerful, he could do something about evil, and if he's all-loving, he would want to do something about evil. Ergo, evil exists, therefore he doesn't. Either he's not all-powerful, or he's not all-loving, or he just doesn't exist. It sounds like a powerful argument. As he began to talk about this and ask me these questions, he didn't do it with a sort of a tone of, I got you on this one. He wanted an answer. He said, I want to know how you reconcile this. How do you come to a decision? How do you know that God exists given the state of evil in the world, or the state of suffering for that matter? Not even just evil, but just, sort of natural evils, as it were, like hurricanes and tsunamis and the like. It's a tough question, especially when the tone begins to change. He wasn't being combative. The tone wasn't combative. The tone was, I have an issue with this on an intellectual level, but also on an existential level. I have an issue with this because it actually matters. And then he showed me why it mattered. See, I had said to him, well, one of the answers, classical answers is, and we can flesh this out more later if we need to, but one of the nutshells for the classical answer is, it would require us to assume that actually it requires us to know that no possible greater good can come from any instance of suffering, that God doesn't have morally sufficient reasons to allow for any instance of suffering to occur that wouldn't allow us to have a greater possible good in the future. We'd have to know all future contingent events to know that the tsunami that happened in 2004 can't result 50,000 years from now in the greatest possible good for the maximum number of people. We'd have to know that. Well, that's a self-contradiction there, because the objection is meant to disprove the existence of a being who is omniscient. So if you're claiming that you know all possible future contingent events, well then, congratulations, you're God. And that is a self-defeating position to take. So logically, it's at least logically possible. This is the so-called logical problem of evil response. That it's logically possible that God could allow any instance of suffering to exist and to occur if it means that a greater possible good could exist in the future, and we simply can't know that. It's just not a logical contradiction for an all-loving, all-good God to exist, yet evil exist. And he took that and we hashed that out for a while, and then this is when the tone really began to change, when the rubber really met the road. He says, I have a hard time with that. No matter what you say on that, I have a hard time with it. Because how could God let my mother die when I was 10? How do you respond to that? Do you push the philosophy? Is that what you do? Well, Matt, as a matter of theory, and then I go into all these things about contingent events and all these things, do I go there? Do you do that? Your question has now been squarely faced with the impact of what it means. Here's the question, though. As a theist, that's a tough one to answer, but I have one. I have a logically consistent answer. As a secular humanist, what is the answer? What is the answer? What would you tell my friend? Well, that's too bad. What is the answer? That's the tough part, because what he was asking about wasn't, how do I intellectually reconcile God's existence with evil's existence? That's not what he was asking me. What he was asking me was, how do I affirm that my mother had intrinsic value beyond my opinion of her, but as a person, if these kind of things happen? If God lets these things happen, or if they're just mindless accidents. Some people are going to get lucky, some won't. That's the way it is. How do I know she has value beyond my value of her? I just happen to value her and someone else doesn't, and who cares? She's gone, she's winked out of existence. How do I know she has intrinsic value? How do I know that she has objective value beyond my opinion? That's what the question actually is asking. Or I should say is the fundamental issue. So can the secular humanist or the non-theist answer this question? This value-laden question. It's a value-laden question about the value of human beings.